Space War is a classic 1978 game for the Atari 2600. From the moment you start it up, you can see that it wants you to play a two-player game. But if you don't have any friends like me, you can just play around and get used to the controls until you find the single-player game types. In these games, you have to control your space shuttle and have it dock with the space module. You can also decide whether you can wrap around from one side of the screen to the other or bounce off the edge, and whether or not there's a center of gravity to your universe. Personally, I found the game somewhat difficult to control, but it's not impossible to play. It just takes a little practice, and you'll be an accomplished space shuttle pilot in no time. The graphics are, well, even for an Atari, they're disappointing. Just squares. They don't even try to build a shape out of the pixels. It's just dots. The explosions are cool, I guess. Like many Atari games, there's nothing new in the way of music either, and the sound effects are there. So if there's a game called Space War, and even the single-player modes have you piloting a space shuttle, the game is bound to have exciting story concepts hidden in the instruction manual, right? I guess not. There's nothing there. The closest thing to a story you're going to find is the description of the different game modes. Unfortunately, what the game lacks in gameplay and graphics and sound, it still doesn't make up for in story. But that's alright. Knowing full well that this would be a short game review, I prepared another game, the classic Atari Space Invaders. We all know this game. Some people have even been lucky enough to pump quarters into arcade machines. Space Invaders has even seen multiple sequels and spin-offs over the years. Evidently, the home port was in such high demand that it reportedly helped quadruple the sales of the Atari 2600 console. It was the first game cartridge in history to sell over 1 million copies, and would go on to have over 2 million lifetime sales. The familiar gameplay has been spoofed in movies and TV shows and involves rows of aliens working their way towards the surface of the planet, while you defend the planet from the surface. Although the game gets faster and more manic as you eliminate enemies from the screen, this isn't specifically part of the game design. It's a consequence of the limitations of the processing power found in 1978. As enemies are removed from the screen, processing power frees up, allowing the remaining baddies to move a little faster. It's likely that the designers could have corrected for this if they wanted to, but it definitely made the game more challenging and frantic. The controls are familiar and responsive and allow you to time your shots very well. When it comes to the graphics of Space Invaders, the game is iconic. The visuals are something we're all familiar with. The look of the invading aliens have been put on everything from lunchboxes to t-shirts and made into bumper stickers. Sound effects and music are also very familiar, and although it's hard to consider the sounds you hear music by today's standards, the 4 notes that repeat in time with the movement of the enemy columns are heard even when other sound effects are playing. The increasing speed of the on-screen action and the music adds to the player's anxiety and can still give players a rush of adrenaline to this day. It was revolutionary in the arcades, and the fact that they were able to similarly duplicate the effect in the home version is just one more thing that cements this game's place in video game history. So we all know the Space Invaders, and the title is a good start, but there's got to be a killer storyline implemented in this game, right? Let's dive in the instruction booklet to find out. Oh, come on! 0 for 2. No story anywhere in the instruction booklet? Fine. Sci-fi fans have vivid imaginations. We had to use our imagination with another gaming classic. Take, for example, Asteroids. Yes, 1979's Asteroids has you piloting a spacecraft around and blowing up asteroids. That's it. That's the whole game. Blow up big space rocks to make smaller space rocks, and keep shooting them until you eliminate them. You can use variant game modes built into the Atari cartridge, where you can either enter hyperspace to dodge an asteroid where you can't be certain where you'll reappear on the screen, or another game mode allows you to activate a shield. But be careful, if you hold the shield for too long, you'll explode anyway. The graphics on the Atari 2600 console are about what you'd expect, but there's no problem comprehending the scale of these massive objects in comparison to your tiny ship. It's obvious that they pose a danger to you. The game uses a particular type of interlacing to keep animation smooth on the screen, so sadly the footage I tried to capture looked a little weird. So I had to go back and just use an emulator on my computer for this game, and I don't like doing that, but it makes it a little easier to see. When it comes to sound effects, Asteroids has familiar shooting and explosion type sounds, as with many games of the era. By 1979, Space Invaders had gotten attention for its music, so Asteroids wanted to do the same. I'm not gonna say that Asteroids ripped off John Williams' score from Jaws, but... But in the end, we've reviewed 3 games, and the first 2 had no story in sight. A game as basic as flying around and blowing up some boulders definitely won't have... What? Oh, what the f***? Cosmic Space Patrol. On a quiet, serene evening, the Cosmic Space Patrol sets out for the usual night cruise through the boulevards of space. This beat was always the same, calm, no action and no excitement. For some reason, this night feels different. Shortly before 0200 hours, some form of intergalactic material is sighted through the visual particle counter. The material is too large a mass to measure. It's drifting closer. Look out, it's a giant asteroid boulder, and it's headed straight for the cosmic spacecraft. The only chance for survival is to dodge the boulder or destroy it. Destroying it doesn't mean just breaking it up, it means vaporizing it. Small asteroid boulders are equally as fatal as large ones. Whew, the boulder just missed colliding with the cosmic spacecraft, but suddenly the Cosmic Space Patrol find themselves surrounded by thousands of deadly asteroids. The Cosmic Space Patrol must act quickly to save their spacecraft and spare their lives. The spacecraft is equipped with photon torpedoes, hyperspace, shields, and flip control. The Cosmic Space Patrol is highly trained to handle this situation. Could you do as good a job as the Cosmic Space Patrol? How would you protect yourself if you were caught in a deadly asteroid belt? This is your big chance to fly through the dimensions of space and fend against asteroid boulders. The longer you survive, the more space hazards you'll encounter. Incredible! It's more than enough to get you started as a player. This makes me feel like I'm highly trained to handle this situation. I'm a member of the Cosmic Space Patrol. How exciting is that? As I found when making the very first episode of Our Story So Far TV, Atari games come from the days of arcade games designed to kill you quick and get another quarter out of you. It wasn't about building immersion, it was about exchanging money for a few minutes of fun. But once in a while you find a gem like this, a game with a story-driven concept that wants to transport you somewhere else for a while. There's one genre that was primed for the attention of the video games industry, and it was science fiction. And these 3 titles are nostalgia, through and through. Something players can go back and enjoy anytime. Some people might call them retro, I just call them classics. Games like these are a part of our society, our culture, our history, and most importantly, our story so far. Hey everybody, thanks for watching episode 40 of Our Story So Far TV. I'd like to give a quick shout out to my friend Dale, who actually was the player for most of the footage you saw in this episode.
That's me!
As always, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. If you want to talk to me, start a conversation, I'm over on Twitter, @NewAngel, that's NUANGEL. If you're new to the series and want to get caught up, the easiest thing to do is just go to ourstorysofar.tv. I have every episode archived in perfect 1080p quality. As always, I'll have a new episode ready for you again in 2 weeks, so until next time, take care of yourself.